We'll go ahead and begin. We want to thank each and every one of you for coming to this afternoon's city agenda meeting, where we'll review the action items that will be formally addressed next Tuesday evening, January 17th at 6 p.m. right here at City Hall. Special welcome to two new directors, City Director District 2, Phyllis Beard, welcome, and City Director Dudley Webb, District 4. Welcome to both of you. Look forward to your service. Mr. Burrow, I was thinking that we hadn't met since last year, and that's a correct statement.
That is correct. It's been a while.
Seems like we've gone between meetings without a meeting, which is something different. So we're going to go ahead and call on Mr. Burrow to review those action items that will be again formally addressed next Tuesday. Mr. Burrow.
Thank you, Mayor. You should have received an email from me with the Hot Springs Metro Partnerships December report for November. Their president and CEO, Gary Troutman, with Chamber of Commerce and Metro, is here today to present that report. And right after his report, we'll start your agenda items. Gary?
Thank you, City Manager Burrow. Appreciate it. Hello, Board. Happy New Year, and welcome to our new members as well. I'm going to go just opposite of what you've got on your agenda. I'm going to give the report first, if I may, and then I'm going to ask you to help me welcome a hometown boy home to Hot Springs this afternoon. Busy month, even though the holidays, and as Bill said, if you have in your packet, we'll start off with the projects. Shannon, Vicky, Cole, and I met with Matt Bell at Origami Sake, began discussions on a grand opening and press conference. That's going to be a big one for those of you that were at Fiber Pro last year. We expect quite a turnout for this, and I've told you the possibilities of Origami Sake going nationwide and global, and the vision that Matt Bell has. So really excited, especially excited that you all know about it, so we can talk openly. I don't have to pretend it's not happening. So in all seriousness, new governor, so don't know the particulars. You know, we had a routine with Governor Hutchinson. We just kind of let him know 3 weeks in advance, and more times than not, he would be able to attend. So we're going to learn this one ourselves. Certainly hoping to have a congressman or two there at that event. Probably happen in March. We'll see how things go. Let's see. Cole and I attended the Development Review Committee meeting here. I think you probably know which that one was about, a certain restaurant that I post a lot about on Facebook, and we'll see what happens there at the old Buffalo Wild Wings. Cole did visit with a Dallas real estate developer about a prospective new retail development. And we do appreciate, again, the Metro Partnership appreciates the contract on the Majestic site. We've had a couple meetings, and we intend to begin our serious prospecting, but we're proud to tell you we've already had 2 meetings with someone who showed interest in advance after they saw the news story picked up on wires with an out-of-state group. So things are progressing there. And, you know, it never ceases to amaze me, despite the challenges we have with ACTI. We had another party that asked to meet with Dr. Porter and Colonel White and I on December 20th, want to discuss ownership or leasing of the ACTI, if that should ever happen after all the dust settles on the transfer of ownership between the state and the federal government. As far as workforce committee chair, our workforce committee chair, Dr. Bill Allison, our chamber chair, Mike Lipton, Chamber Chair Neil Harrington, former chairs, and myself participated in the 10-County Workforce Development Board meeting. And on the general topics, I think I told you previously in November, I believe we had a second meeting with a group from out of state about Diamond Head. So second meeting, we've had a lot of interest in Diamond Head. There's about 2,100 lots available there. Obviously, Lakeside and Magnet Cove School District, affordable housing. Director Garcia, I think now that I remember, we talked specifically about this, but we've had a second meeting with other folks on that. I want to congratulate all of you on the water situation. I know we were all sweating that out, but that was resolved in December. I want to say this with all candor and hope you'll take it the right way. I mentioned this at the Quorum Court meeting last night. You can probably look at the gray hair and tell that I'm not trying to resume build much anymore. But I did want to tell you that I was selected as one of 7 chamber professionals in the entire country to be a class advisor at U.S. Winter Institute this past week and weekend in Tucson. And I say that not to sit here and toot my horn. I say that to tell you that Friday night I was at dinner with 5 people from the U.S. Chamber. And I don't think it can hurt for us to be on a first-name basis with 5 folks in D.C. if we ever need any favors or anything here in Hot Springs. And it's particularly good for them from an economic development standpoint to know someone in Hot Springs and exactly where we are. So just wanted to throw that in there. Cole met with a new downtown commercial with a space with a property owner for downtown with particular space in mind. You can see on the 6th and the 13th, we hosted both the Leadership Hot Springs Youth Group on the 6th, the adults on the 13th. We had speakers Eric Jackson from Oaklawn, Karen McDonald from Key Smith, Eric Gilson from Oaklawn, Katie Wilson from Triumph, Crystal Bohannon from St. Vincent, Bill Salter from Visit Hot Springs, and both groups toured Alliance Rubber and Express Boat. So appreciate them hosting both of those. We had a business retention and expansion call with Berry Global, one of our largest employers here. And Cole had a meeting with a business elsewhere in the state, a prominent location in another tourism town looking to locate here on Central probably. He introduced 2 local business owners looking to collaborate on a joint venture. And the reserve, I just got a text from Mr. McMurray. The reserve was named honorable mention on Preserve Arkansas Awards, and that ceremony's coming up in Little Rock later this month. So we'll hopefully they'll be going. If they do, we'll be there to support him, as we did Mayor McCabe for winning a few years back. As a member of the AEDC board for the state, participated in that board meeting. Again, the water issue. Cole has helped helped someone scout for locations for an upcoming film production here in Hot Springs, and was honored to attend Elaine Jones' retirement ceremony recently. We said goodbye to Rita after 20 years, and we're working with the owners of Maori White Shopping Center about strategies and development for the former StarTech that you're all familiar with. Coming up, we got the legislative reception on the 24th at War Memorial with all the new legislators. I hope you all will please make a point to join us that afternoon, evening. And of course, the Chamber Annual Banquet and Community Awards are the 2nd of February at Oaklawn. Now, I realize this is a December report, but just a couple things I want to tease you with for January. Again, I mentioned Tucson and Winter Institute. We had Gary Jackson start with us, whom I'm about to introduce last Tuesday, his first day. And Gary and I met with Dr. Bill Allison. Steve, we met with Dr. Bill Allison yesterday to talk workforce and how National Park would be involved. And we've just come from Lake Hamilton School, where Gary and Amanda Porter and Donald Westerman, we've been putting looking at the logistics for Draft Day that we'll be hosting here in Hot Springs for 30 schools from basically Malvern to Oklahoma in late April, 2 days in late April. So I want to make this introduction, but I first want to answer any questions you may have before I do.
The Phase 2 environmental study on ACTI, is there a time frame for that?
Mayor, probably looking at May the 1st are the indications we've had. And I didn't mention it, and thank you for bringing it up. I know it's not ACTI, but I did fail to mention, did meet with Judge Thornton from Malvern Hot Spring County. The reclamation of the industrial park there happened as planned through November and December, and the demolition is beginning there. So everything has been on schedule that I've reported to you previously there. We're excited about that. It's not in Hot Springs, but it's close enough that we'll certainly see some benefits of it. And the thought is, as they remove some of that buried concrete, that they'll find the remaining funds to just go ahead and complete the project. We have the whole place site ready in due time.
Very good. Any questions of Gary?
I have one.
Please.
Do you have anything that you can report on the Majestic site?
Well, just the two meetings that we've had. We've got Cole's worked on a marketing packet that we're going to show, that we have to show to our committee. We've got a 5 to 7 person, 5 that are on the Metro Partnership Executive Committee. 2 others, I think, want to participate. And so we're ready to present that in an approach letter. So just need them to sign off on it, and we're ready to go. And we'll identify prospects and go from there. But just very encouraged from the 2 meetings we've had with the one company already.
Great, thank you.
Without further ado, I will tell you that, obviously I get up here every month and we talk workforce, and more workforce. 3.5 years ago, before we ever knew what COVID even meant or could spell COVID, that Michelle and Cole and I went to West Memphis. And I told you we'd been to Batesville Southside and to North Little Rock and West Memphis, and we're going to go to Pea Ridge before COVID hit. Of those 3 that we were able to go to, probably the most impactful in our minds was West Memphis, because the gentleman there, Gary Jackson, was changing lives. I mean, other than just offering the programs, he was putting his students on a different life cycle and breaking them out of socioeconomic constraints that they may grown up with. So we left just very impressed. We knew he was a Hot Springs guy. We never thought that we'd have an opportunity to bring him back home. But it's been I've been in the hiring business since I was 30 years old, and this might possibly be the most popular hire I think I've ever made, because as soon as people found out we were bringing Gary home, there was a lot of excitement. I'm going to let him come up and talk about himself, but he graduated from Hot Springs. He was principal at Cutter, and he's got an extensive and very successful background in education and workforce development. So I'd like to present and please welcome Gary Jackson, who's new to the Metro Partnership staff.
Thank you, Gary. I'm looking around seeing some faces I haven't seen in a long time. B, it's been a long time. Mayor McCabe, it's good to see you again. I know we've hit the golf ball a few times, and City Manager Bill, I've known you for a long time, and it's good to be back home. It's a great place. And several years ago, when you move away and we come back and visit our family members here, we'd leave at 10 o'clock in the morning, then you started leaving at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it just got to where we'd spend the night, and as Gary and I were talking today, that we'd spend the night and leave and go to work the next morning. And so when the opportunity came about, get back to Hot Springs, move back around our family again, it was a no-brainer for us, and we're excited to be back here. The big thing for me, I've got a former football player in the audience in here. I hadn't seen in a long time. It's exciting to see him here, but my impact went from coaching football to changing kids' lives as far as workforce. And we were producing a lot of tax recipients and not a lot of taxpayers. And so when we started lining up our curriculum at the academies of West Memphis, we started talking about what is the greatest impact we can make. This past week, I've looked at the graduates in Garland County at all the high schools, took the numbers, and if we're waiting for workforce to come in, they'll come, but every year we produce about 600 that leave in May when they receive diploma. How do we get those kids and build that pipeline so they can be members of our community and our school districts and pay taxes here in Garland County and Hot Springs? I've had great conversations starting with Amanda Porter at Lake Hamilton, and looking at workforce and going out there and tying in internships, getting the skills from industry in our community so we can get those in the hands of students when they're in 9th and 10th grade to see what skills they need to have when they graduate in May to be a productive citizen in our county, in our town. And so that's the pipeline we're going to look at trying to build, and we're excited about doing it, and look forward to working with each of the individual schools, and also look forward to getting an opportunity to meet and know each one of you. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Gary. Appreciate you. Mr. Burrow.
Thank you, Mayor. Your first item is, under your consent agenda, is Resolution R 2301, a resolution acknowledging receipt of the City of Hot Springs financial statements for November 2022, and our Finance Director, Karen Scott, will present the item. Karen?
Good evening. As you know, the Finance Department creates monthly financial statements, and we issue them to keep city management and constituents apprised of the financial condition of the City of Hot Springs. The November financial statements will be in your packet, and staff recommends acknowledging receipt of them.
Any questions of Karen? Director Garcia?
Would you mention the latest sales tax results for the city that you sent out a message about?
I didn't bring that with me, but off the top of my head, month over month, we were up 7.9%, and as of the year to date, about 8%.
Very good.
Yes. Also, I might add the special sales tax for the roads is collecting in excess of $500,000 each month. So we are on pace to collect about $6 million or $6.25 million.
More good news.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any
More
other
payment.
questions? Thank you.
Next item is Resolution R 2302, a resolution extending an agreement with Cruz and Associates, Inc. for financial advisory services. And again, Ms. Scott.
Yes, on August 6, 2013, the board approved resolution number 8264, awarding a contract to Cruz and Associates to provide financial advisor services to the City of Hot Springs. Cruz and Associates has continued to provide these services since that date and has assisted the city with several bond issues. ACA 1458-104 provides that the governing body of the city of the first class, city of the second class, or an incorporated town may purchase the following commodities without soliciting bids. Number 18 is renewal or extension of the term of an existing contract. The city believes the contract with Cruz is beneficial, the services provided are critical, and we desire to extend the agreement to continue utilizing Cruz as the financial advisor for an additional 3 years. Staff recommends that you approve continuing the agreement with Cruz and Associates to provide financial advisory services.
Very good. Any questions of Karen on this topic? Thank you.
Next, we have Resolution R 2303, a resolution ratifying the appointment of Robert Zunick to the Hot Springs Advertising and Promotion Commission, and our city clerk, Harmony Morrissey, will present.
Thank you. Mr. Robert Zunick was appointed to fill the remainder of the term for position 3 on the Hot Springs Advertising and Promotion Commission, when that position was vacated by Mr. Paul Lynch when he moved out of state. That occurred on November 2nd of 2021. That term expired December 31st of 22. On December 15th of 22, the A&P Commission voted to reappoint Mr. Zunick to position 3 for a full 4-year term. In accordance with state law, A&P commissioners are appointed by the remaining members on the commission, and that must be ratified by the Board of Directors. The A&P Commission respectfully requests the City Board of Directors ratify the appointment of Mr. Zunick.
Any questions of Harmony? Thank you.
Next item is consider Resolution R 2304, a resolution appointing Mark Menifee to the Hot Springs Community Development Advisory Committee. And again, Ms. Morrissey.
Thank you. The District 1 position on CDAC is currently vacant. This is a 4-year term, but this particular position expires May 1st of 2025. One of the vital activities of this committee is to review, rank, and recommend annual applications that will serve as the basis of the annual Community Development Block Grant Action Plan that is to be submitted to the Department of Housing and Urban Development. This work takes place the first quarter of the year. Thus, it is in the best interest of the community to fill this position as soon as possible. Hot Springs Code Section 2-8-34B states that membership of the CDAC committee shall be as follows: 1 member from Board of Director District 1 to be nominated by the District Director, 1 member or 1 member from Board of Director District 2 to be nominated by the District Director, and 3 members at large to be nominated in accordance with the Board of Directors nomination and selection process for boards and commissions and committees. Pursuant to this code section, Director Holliday has nominated Mr. Mark Menifee to fill the remainder of this vacant term. Mr. Menifee resides at 113 Una, and his voter registration has been verified by the county clerk's office. This nomination is now presented to the Board of Directors for consideration.
Very good. Any questions of Harmony on this topic? Thank you.
Next item is consider resolution R 2305, a resolution approving a salary increase for the Garland County District Court Chief Clerk pursuant to Arkansas Code annotated 16-17-108. And our District Court Administrator, Chris Burrow, is here to discuss the item. Chris.
Good afternoon. Consideration for our chief clerk, who is Dacre Fernandez. Her salary is set by a minimum and a maximum by statute. There's a code that does that, which is in your packet. She is a city employee, but she is not on the city grade scale because the way that it's set, the judge, I guess, had set the hourly rate. She has completed some certification through the Clerks Association, and we're asking that it be recognized that she get the step bump, which is 83 cents, for her pay salary. It's governed by the Board of Directors, and it's also governed by the Quorum Court, which, if upon approval here, I will have to seek the Quorum Court and meet with them to get approval as well.
Very good. Any questions on this item?
What's her current rate, Chris?
Well, it would be $27.31, so you're looking at $28 and it could be an 83. It's a 3% basically step that we took off the pay scale as close as we could possibly get. Because her pay at the time does not line up with the grade and the scale pay.
It was around 83 cents an hour.
Yeah.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have a resolution awarding a term contract to Bearing Distributors, Inc. for wastewater pump bearings, and our Utility Director, Monty Ledbetter, is here to discuss that item. Monty?
Very exciting item here for my first item of 23, bearings and seals for wastewater pumps. So we normally bid these together. This year, we in the bidding process, we had 3 bidders that bid, and so we're recommending awarding the bearing contract to Bearing Terms, Bearing Distribution, Inc., and this is for a 4-year, 12-month extensions upon mutual consent. Bearings, of course, are used in repairs of our wastewater pumps. We use these daily in repairing these pumps. So staff is recommending awarding this bid to Bearing Distribution, Inc. Got any questions about that? Yes, ma'am.
Director Garcia?
Thank you. Is this your current vendor?
This is one of the current vendors.
So you have good experience with it?
Yeah, there's not very many companies that do
Do
this,
this
and
specific.
this is, and we order these, so
Okay.
we get them where we can. Of course, the way things are going nowadays, you get product where you can get it from, so.
I understand.
Yeah,
Thank you.
they were the low bidder, so.
I do want to point out that this is a term contract, but we have options for 4 additional years. We
Yes,
will
sir.
probably not exceed the city manager's spending authority in any one given year, but because of those rollovers, we wanted to bring these to the board. Secondly, with those 4 one-year rollovers, that'll keep us from having to go out and bid again. Each time it seems like we go out for bid, these costs continue to escalate. So hopefully this will give us the opportunity to negotiate that into a new year once this one comes to its end, to its expiration.
Yes, sir.
Any further questions? Thank you.
All right.
Next, we have a similar item, Resolution R 2307, a resolution awarding a term contract to John Crane, Inc., doing business as U.S. Seal Manufacturing for wastewater seals. And again, Monty.
Okay, these are the seals that I mentioned. used in the same line, wastewater, to repair the wastewater pumps, and we're recommending awarding this contract to the lowest of the three bidders, was John Crane. Any questions on that?
The same. Yeah.
Same.
you.
Yeah.
Basically the same wording exactly. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Next, we'll begin the new business section of your agenda for Tuesday night, and it's Resolution R2308, a resolution declaring a certain structure located at 421 Clara Street a nuisance and condemning same pursuant to Title 17 of the Hot Springs Code. And our Chief Building Official, Mike Scott, will present the item.
Thank you. 421 Clara is a vacant single-family residential structure located in District 2. Per the Arkansas Fire Prevention Code, Volume 2, the Building Code, Section 116, Unsafe Structures and Equipment, states, structures or existing equipment that are hereafter become unsafe, insanitary, or deficient because of inadequate means of egress facilities, inadequate light and ventilation, or which constitute a fire hazard, or are otherwise dangerous to human life or the public welfare, or that involve illegal or improper occupancy or inadequate maintenance, shall be deemed unsafe. Condition, unsafe structures shall be taken down and removed or made safe as the building official deems necessary and as provided for in this section. A vacant structure that is not secured against entry shall be deemed unsafe. That being said, the planning department has determined that this structure poses a public health and safety risk. The structure was inspected and deemed unsafe for habitation because of extensive structural and foundation damage, including collapsed porch roof, cracks in the foundation wall, missing siding, and interior damages as well. Due to the extent of the deterioration, the inability or unwillingness of the property owner to make the repairs to stabilize, and having no reasonable alternative, we request that the structure be condemned for the purpose of demolishing and clearing. The owner has been notified by certified mail of our intention to make this request, and we have received proof of service.
Any questions of Mike on this topic? Thank you.
Next, we have Resolution R2309, a resolution declaring a certain structure located at 305 Mountain View Street a nuisance and condemning same pursuant to Title 17 of the Hot Springs Code. And again, Mr. Scott.
Thank you. 305 Mountain View is a vacant single-family residential structure located in District 3. The planning department has determined that this structure poses a public health and safety risk also. The structure was inspected and deemed unsafe for habitation because of extensive structural and foundation damages, including collapsing roof over the carport and extensive interior damage to the ceilings, walls, and floor. Due to the extent of the deterioration and the inability or unwillingness of the property owner to make the repairs to stabilize and have reasonable alternative, we request that the structure be condemned for the purpose of demolishing and clearing. The owner has been notified by mail, certified mail, of our intention to make this request, and we have received proof of service.
Any questions of Mike on this? Yes, Director Trustee.
Thank you, Mayor. Mike, you may have said, what district is this one?
That one's District 3, sir.
3?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right. That's
all.
very good. Thank you.
y'all.
Next item is consider Resolution R2310, a resolution granting a short-term residential rental special use permit to 288 Lake Hamilton Drive in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and our Planning and Development Director, Kathy Summan, will present the item.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Charles and Elizabeth Howland, along with Don and Sarah Harris, Jeff Harris, and Cameron and Holly Miller, are appealing the Hot Springs Board of Zoning Adjustment approval of special use permit SUP 22242 for residential short-term rental of a single-family home at 288 Lake Hamilton Drive. This is an unplatted, improved 3.15 acre property. The appellants are requesting the board to reconsider and decline special use permit 22242 based upon 4 statements. The statements are: the number of short-term rentals on Lake Hamilton Drive has increased dramatically, increased crime and traffic issues, sanitation and grinder pump issues, and the expense to fence a property to prevent trespassing along a property line common with the applicant of 676 feet. Those things that the appellants have stated may be factual, but not one of them is a short-term residential rental special use permit standard of approval per Hot Springs Code of Ordinances. An application for a special use permit is a prerequisite for requesting a license to operate a short-term residential rental in an R1, 2, 3, or 4 district. The application for a special use permit must be submitted along with the fee for a conditional use permit and shall be reviewed by the Director of Planning without need for public hearing. The director shall determine if the development or use satisfies the required standards of Hot Springs Code and shall approve or deny the special use application based upon such findings. A decision once made, notification of approval or denial, or well, of approval, has to be posted on the premises. There's a QR code providing a link to application information. Talks about the approval and the appeal steps. In addition, a notice of that approval is published in the Sentinel Record newspaper. A decision by the director may be appealed to the Board of Zoning Adjustment within 30 days of the publication date, and there is no cost for that appeal. These appellants did appeal to the Board of Zoning Adjustment. The required notice was provided, and the Board of Zoning Adjustment, by a vote of a unanimous vote, voted to issue the special use permit for 288 Lake Hamilton Drive. The applicant was the Stephen Ashewer Family Trust, and they did remit the fee, provided a complete application, which included the City of Hot Springs inspection report. This was dated August 4th, 2022, a dimension site plan, and a dimension floor plan as required by Hot Springs Code. In this item, we ask the board to consider the resolution approving special use permit 22-242 based upon the applicant's compliance with the Hot Springs Code standards for a short-term rental special use permit.
Any questions of Ms. Selman?
Mayor, I'd just like to point out to the board, those who have previously served and those who are new to the board, an issue such as this is coming to you as a de novo appeal. That means it doesn't matter whether it was approved before or not. You are sitting as a tribunal to decide whether or not it is approved. It comes to you in the affirmative. The reason it comes to you in the affirmative is because a motion on the floor to deny, if it does not get significant enough votes, if it doesn't get 4 votes to pass, what do you have? You have nothing. So it will come to you in the affirmative. It is a quasi-judicial decision. I've placed a memorandum at your stations. This is a memorandum that I've used over the years, and I reprint it every time that you have a conditional use, or in this case, a special use application to spell out the differences between legislative functions and quasi-judicial functions. If this were a rezoning request, that would require a change to your ordinance, which is law. And so new law, new legislation, you can talk to people, you can be lobbied, you can discuss it. However, when something of this nature comes to you, it is an application of the facts to your existing law. And so therefore, it has more of a legal basis, quasi-judicial. Picture yourself as sitting as the judge and/or jury on this matter. Your decisions have to be made on what is presented to you in these chambers, much like a judge or a jury must also do. If this were a car wreck, you cannot leave on your lunch break as a juror and go to the intersection and take pictures of the intersection, time the light, measure the skid marks, things of that nature. You make your decision in the box, as the judge instructs jurors. So you make your decision in the chambers. Any questions? If someone calls you about this, I know you have constituents, I know you're elected. But to the best of your ability, politely inform them that this is a quasi-judicial matter, and unfortunately, you're not at liberty to discuss the details of the application or the appeal. Thank you.
All right. We appreciate that review each time.
Yes, sir.
Because if you do, as he says, go out to the intersection, if you went out to the property, if you talk to the neighbors, then you would have to recuse yourself.
Yes, sir. Now, that's not to say that you have to disregard your common knowledge of the street that may be in question, much like an intersection that you might drive through on your way to work each day. You know what it is, but you're not to investigate the particulars of this application and/or its appeal.
Very good. Thank you. Yeah, Director Webb.
Thank you, Mayor. I noticed, Ms. Kathy, that you had mentioned that one of the complaints from those that are appealing had something to do with the increase in crime. Were any pieces of evidence provided to support that claim, or
No.
would that come up at the next board meeting?
No.
No?
There's no documentation to back up that statement one way or another.
For purposes of this matter and any matter that's on your agenda, the purpose of the agenda meeting is to receive enough information for the board to determine whether or not it gets placed on your agenda for a business meeting at which you will discuss the particulars of the item. So again, hold your questions and your information and the evidence for the box or the chambers at your tribunal hearing at the business meeting next Tuesday, 6 p.m.
I have a quick question. Can I just ask that one of the things that they did say was the number of short-term rentals, can that be included?
It is included in your
Okay,
packet.
just making sure that that number was there. Thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you.
Your next item is consider Resolution R 2311, a resolution authorizing the filing and acceptance of a National Park Service Paul Brune Historic Revitalization Grant to benefit the Central Avenue and Pleasant Street Historic Districts. And again, Ms. Selman.
Thank you. I'd like to begin by thanking the board for, in the previous year's budget, approving a new position for long-range and historic preservation planning. We have done the best we can with historic preservation, but it has not been the priority activity that our districts merit. We are now in a much better situation. I would say in the past, we've tried to keep our finger in that hole in the dike, and sometimes that's enough, and sometimes it's just not. Our historic preservation planner, Lauren Adkins, has discovered, and we are pursuing, two amazing opportunities for funding activities in one for the Pleasant Street Historic District and one which could benefit either of our two districts, Central or Pleasant Street. And I'll have a few details about that here. We're very excited about this, and I hope that you are too. The first one, the National Park Service Paul Brune Historic Revitalization Grants Program, would benefit either Central Avenue or the Pleasant Street Historic District. The amount of the grant would be $300,000 to fund revitalization and rehabilitation of buildings in the district. This is a 100% grant. There is no match, and that's usually a pretty good thing. What this grant program would support is sub-grant programs or mini-grants to enable rehabilitation of historic properties and to rehabilitate, protect, and foster economic development of communities under 50,000 population, excuse me. The Park Service has confirmed that Hot Springs would be eligible based upon that population size. The grant would support the city awarding sub-grants via competitive application. And we are seeking additional funding in the next item that we'll have for you, also to revitalize and rehabilitate, and that would come from the National Trust for Historic Preservation. If we are funded by both agencies, that would give us somewhere in the vicinity of $400,000 to pursue these activities. And man, I hope you're as excited about this as we are, because we are really excited. So that's that one.
Any questions of Kathy on this topic? Thank you.
Your next item is separate but akin. It's Resolution R2312, a resolution authorizing the filings and acceptance of a National Trust for Historic Preservation 2023 African American Cultural Heritage Action Fund National Grant to benefit the Pleasant Street Historic District. And again, Ms. Selman.
Thank you. On this application, we would like to apply for $150,000. This National Trust African American Cultural Heritage Action Fund National Grant Program would support a grant program to conserve or mothball deteriorated and abandoned houses in the Pleasant Street Historic District. Heir-owned abandoned properties in the Pleasant Street Historic District are not only unsightly, they are often dangerous and frequently become attractive nuisances which threaten both residential quality and the longevity of precious historic and cultural resources. The grant would support the city to conserve selected, deteriorated, long-term vacant homes. Construction work would conform to the Secretary of the Interior's standards for treatment of historic properties. Full details of both of these grants are included in your packet. Specifically on this one, we have in mind roof replacement and then placing a transparent, very sturdy material known as Secure View to cover structure openings. That would be windows and doors. The point of Secure View is to keep out the people who don't belong there. And rather than using plywood to board, which we have quite a bit of in the district, this presents a face to the street and to the neighbors that this is a house, a valuable resource, and the openings are covered in such a way that the house does not appear to be vacant. So outreach to and cooperative agreements with the owners would be critical to our success. We did submit a letter of interest. We should know by March 7th whether we have been selected to apply, but with an optimistic outlook, we're asking for your approval of this request to file and accept these grants. Thank you very much. And you already know how excited we are, so thank you.
That's one thing about your demonstration of excitement. You just go over the top. Very
Oh, we
subtle.
need you to know. So thank you very
Any-
much for
Yeah, wait,
considering
wait,
this.
whoa.
What, you want?
Director Trustee
Okay.
has a question.
It is great news. You said, I think in the previous resolution, that would be a competitive application process. Will it be the same in this one from the property owners?
It would be to some degree.
Okay.
Because many of the owners that these are all for vacant properties.
Okay.
And many of these owners are distant, not interested, and hard to get a response from them. So what we have begun to work on is a numeric rating system. We worked with the Gateway neighborhood to help us identify properties and to rate them in terms of need. So this will be competitive in that sense, but probably not in the traditional sense like we would with the second grant.
Very good, thank you.
Any additional questions?
And with respect to, I know this is not part of what you're bringing to the board next week, but the SecureView is, you have an example of that.
We do.
That's already been used. And one of the options that the board has, as opposed to condemning and demolishing a building, is to board and secure. And so if it is in fact a historic structure that contributes to the district, this option would be available to you, and Kathy can give you an address
Yes.
where you can visualize how this would work.
Yes, the John L. Webb House on Pleasant Street currently has secure view over the openings. It's not apparent. Thank you for pointing that out. I should have brought that up. It's been very effective in keeping the building secure from all kinds of things, weather, bad actors, you name it. And has been a very successful pilot, and that pilot was funded through the Community Development Block Grant several years ago, but has been a great test of whether this works and whether it accomplishes our goals in terms of keeping the district a place that is desirable both to people who live there now and for people who might wish to invest in the future.
Very good. Any additional questions of Ms. Selman?
I have a quick one.
Thank
I
you
heard-
for,
Real
go ahead.
quick question. I heard you say on the first one there was no match. We don't have a match.
Yes, and there's
The
no
second
match
one-
on the second one
Okay.
either. Yes. Yep.
Even better.
Even better. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your next item is your final item of the evening, and it's also your only ordinance. It's considered ordinance O-2301, an ordinance waiving the requirements of competitive bidding and approving the procurement of census water meters and associated components. And Deputy City Manager Denny McFate will present the item. Denny?
Thank you, Mr. Burrows, members of the board. The city's municipal water system has an automated water metering system utilizing water meters, software, and related components that are manufactured by Census. In order to ensure compatibility throughout the city system, meters should be of the same model, brand, and such meters and components are only available in Arkansas through Core and Main of North Little Rock. Therefore, staff is requesting waiving competitive bidding for an initial purchase of meters and components from Core and Main in the amount of $317,769. And those funds are budgeted in the 2023 budget.
Very good. Any questions of Denny on this topic? Director Garcia.
Thank you. What is the expected life of these meters?
About 15 years.
And so now, this is part of our requirements for the water system to keep them on a updated process annually. So they're all, every year we're keeping what needs to be replaced.
Yes, ma'am. This will do two things for us. We use about 370 meters on average on new installations per year. This order will be for 1,000 initial 5/8 meters, which are residential mostly. And we'll put those to the side to use for this coming year for new services. And we'll take the balance and start replacing the meters that are becoming of age.
And that's something that the newly appointed, sworn-in board members, we've had to attend training about the water system board responsibilities. And this is one of the, meeting those responsibilities. So I'm sure you'll be getting something about training if you have it.
Yeah, a lot of our meters are reaching the end of their lifespan.
thank you.
Well, most of our meters were all put in at the same time.
Yes,
right?
they were,
I was
all
just-
of them.
So they, when you say 15 years, and now we're trying to cycle them through, but
Yes, sir.
it's like they all have the same life, pretty much. Thank
They-
you.
They actually lose about 1% a year, once they get to that point. But all of them have MXUs, which is what contacts the radio towers to tell us what your usage is. And then they have batteries. So there's really three components: the meter, the MXU, and the battery. And we've got enough in the budget to continue to replace those and replace MXUs and batteries while we're going back and replacing meters. So we think we've got a pretty good plan moving forward, but probably in about 5 years, we need to look at a substantial order.
Can I get the name of the company again?
Core and Main.
Core and Main?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Core and Main of North Little Rock.
For a census system.
Yeah, they're the census dealer.
Okay, well, we had census in the agenda, but not the name of the company.
It'll be, the bid will be in your
It'll be
packet
in your
with the
packet.
company name and address.
Thank you.
And
Right.
the meters, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but as they age, they tend to slow. And so, as meters wear out, you get an under reading, not an over reading. So it's important to get an accurate reading so that the city is accurately charging.
And they average about 1% a year in that loss. Mary, you do have, any other questions on that item? You do have three items where you'll have a recognition for guests. One of those is a proclamation, which is the 30th anniversary of the Sister City program. You'll have a proclamation presented to Mary Zunick, and she'll be here with several members of her board. Also a proclamation recognizing the National Day of Racial Healing. That's something that we're trying to get all 500-plus cities in the state to recognize, and we'll be sending those to the Municipal League to put those together. And then finally, I'd like Chief Chapman to come up and talk a moment about something that's really exciting. He was able to really get 2 grants. I don't know if he'll be bringing both checks, but I know he's bringing one. But our director, Kirk R. Lane, will be here, and he's with the Arkansas Opioid Recovery Partnership. Chief, you want to talk a little bit I mean, you guys worked a long time on that. We appreciate your efforts.
Yeah, so absolutely. You know, we received the comprehensive opioid grant in 2021, 2022. We were not recipients of that federal grant moving forward, but fortunately, the state of Arkansas received some of the opioid recovery funds, a very large amount. Based on our work here in Hot Springs and Garland County, Director Lane reached out to us, asked us to apply for the funding. I'm proud to say that not only were we one of the first recipients of the COPE grant, we are now the first recipient of the Arkansas Recovery Funds. It's broken into 2 different portions. One portion, the larger portion, which we received for 2 years, totaling over $400,000, is to cover the salary for our opioid investigator and our peer recovery specialist, Sean Willits. The second grant is called the HEROES Grant, and it's in the amount of about $25,000 a year that supplies us with free Narcan, the life-saving drug that we give to opioid overdose patients. So it's a pretty substantial grant. Director Lane wants to come down, brag on our program, because we are considered the model program in the state of Arkansas. They actually adopted our reporting techniques for the statewide program, and it's my understanding we're the first agency to receive that. And he just wants to take the opportunity to present to you and have a photo op with a really big check. So we've already received our first $100,000 plus check. We'll receive one every 6 months for the next 2 years in excess of $100,000. So
That's awesome.
Good job.
Any questions of Chief on that?
And
Thank you.
I don't know if it's
Go ahead.
which person, this is a grant from the state funds they received. This is in addition to any funds the city will directly receive in regards to the opiate settlement. Is that correct?
No.
Or
Well,
not?
you know, it's part and parcel of the same.
This is how we'll receive
we
our
participate,
settlement
yes,
funds.
right. We
Okay.
participated in the litigation,
Yes.
and so that's what makes us eligible to
Okay.
share in the proceeds.
That's what I wasn't clear
correct. So
on.
Director Lane oversees the portion that went to the cities and the counties. It's a
Okay.
combined funding source for cities and county entities. Is that correct, Brian?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mayor, that completes all of your items for your agenda for the January 17th meeting.
Very good. And for the new directors, you'll get a notice that, or an email with all the good stuff to review in advance of Tuesday night's meeting. You can go to the city website as well, and under Board of Directors, and slide over to the right and click Current Agenda, which will have all the attachments. So just navigate that, and if you have any questions, contact Bill, and he'll provide assistance with any additional interpretation or reports that you might request. Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. Was there going to be anyone here to, in acceptance of the National Day of Racial Healing Proclamation, or?
I don't think
just-
she'll be here, but she's asked us to forward those on to her. She's going to correlate those with the others in the state and keep those there at the municipal league.
Okay, but no local organizations will be here in support of that, okay.
Not that I'm aware of.
All right. First meeting of, well, we don't count these as meetings, though, do we?
Your first gathering.
Our gathering for 2023. So we are adjourned. And sun's still out. It's a good thing.
Days are stretching.